Hello, this is Taha.
This is Anaina,
This is Movie Masala.
and we're here to yap at you about films we watched recently.
And today we're doing
Materialists by Celine Song.
Do you want a drink?
Sure.
What do you want?
Coke and beer.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, John.
So do you want to just start us off with like the basic plot of this? As the rom-com girly that you are.
Okay, yes. As rom-com and Celine Song girly, because damn, she wrecked me after Past Lives.
I think everyone was wrecked after Past Life. You watch Past Life, you get wrecked and you're like, I can't do this again right now, but I would love to get wrecked like this again.
Exactly. Anyway, so as the person whose film this is right up the alley of, it has Dakota Johnson as Lucy, Chris Evans as John, and Pedro Pascal as Harry, who we were marketed to believe are in a love triangle. However, as we watch the film, we realize it's not so much of a triangle. It's just, three people trying to find love or figure out what love is, or even, what being in a relationship is in New York City's extremely competitive, extremely cutthroat dating market, as the film likes to put it.
Oh, that just word kept coming up and I was just like, it's so in character for it to be used in that scenario, specifically with Dakota Johnson being a matchmaker, right? But I liked its inclusion in a weird way where it's so cutthroat and to the point that it hurt. And it was acknowledging like the real worldness of dating.
No, for sure. Every time they said it, and there's this one scene, like towards the beginning of the film, where they say it like a lot. They say it in every single line. And every time I was kind of like cringing and I was going, oh, don't call it that. Oh, don't call it that. And then I thought back and I was like, no, but that's exactly what it is, right? Because it is a market. And as like people who, would know who are dating, not just in New York City, but like anywhere in the world, it is like kind of like you're putting yourself up for sale and you're looking for a product. And I think Celine Song really hit the mark on that one, and specifically like the mark in terms of making people feel uncomfortable, which I think this whole film really like does really well. It makes you really uncomfortable, and I think it makes its characters somewhat uncomfortable as well within all the, luxury comfort there.
Also, you want to consider like the people this film is referring to when it talks about like in that materialist way, pun intended, that these are rich people. They do see things oftentimes in terms of like very materialist ways, right? And that is another conversation that later happens with Pedro Pascal, where they talk about like dating in terms of like assets and stuff like that. And I think one thing is that the inclusion of language like this makes the thing feel much more cold and distant. I think it proves the further point of like exposing people, because it is not untrue that everyone wants to date attractive, rich people. Like no one would say no to that, right? It's like that. Exactly. And I think the second thing is that these are flawed characters. Like none of these characters are explicitly perfect. While Celine Song does set this up as a rom-com, it's not like one perfect person here who might have flaws, but all of these people are genuine people and do come with baggage and problems.
No, and I think that's why like people are like, well, this was supposed to be a rom-com. We didn't sign up for whatever, intellectual bullshit this is. And I'm like, no, this is a rom-com because it is exactly what romance is. And so other people are like, that wasn't funny enough. It was hilarious in bits. I was genuinely laughing out loud in certain bits.
No, this was very funny, yes.
Also, when was the last time you laughed out loud at a 2000s rom-com? Please, as someone who's watched a lot of them, not once. Maybe one movie, one time.
You are the most qualified person here.
Exactly. So I definitely think that she is redefining what a rom-com should mean. And I'm not saying every rom-com henceforth has to be like this with, flawed characters and really deep, thoughtful plot lines and, long pauses and silences. We can keep making movies however we want to make them. And I think that was kind of the point of this film as well. Just as we can keep making rom-coms however we want to keep making them, we can choose to like love and date whoever we want. And I think while it's like poking fun at the whole kind of people are really materialistic about this whole dating market thing, it's also, in a way, I didn't feel like it was judging any of the characters who did do that. Like,
Yeah.
which I really appreciated.
I think that is the part that also stuck with me. Like, I saw somewhere where people were talking about, like, it's like looking down at poor people, in some way, which I disagree with, firstly. And B, it's also like, I get that though. I know, coming from a place where I've had financial insecurity, 100% that makes sense to me, that I don't want to do that. And like, you do have that feeling of like, but what if he was rich? What if she had more money? What if she was more... I think that's what I'm coming back to. It digs into this very fundamental humanness that exists with both its argument for love, but also its argument for like being more, again, materialistic in terms of your elements. And I think she does that really well with the first opening scene of the caveman and everything with that.
Exactly. By the way, that scene, I think it was absolutely brilliant, and the way it tied in towards the end as well, the trade-off with like the flowers and the ring and the kind of tools and stuff like that. I think it made the point of the film really, really clear. It boiled it down to what it was trying to say, which was people have been giving each other shit for ages. I don't think we need to worry about it right now. Just right now, money is part of the play. But this like trade-off of things and assets, like you put it, is age old. And if that plays a part in love, okay.
I don't know, but I think it's also like such a good homage in a way to Stanley Kubrick, because how he sets up that first use of tool to man in space, she sets up like that ring with the first instance of love to connecting love here. And I think that's just such good filmmaking.
For sure. I think Celine Song is like really intelligent with this film. And not just in terms of what she's trying to say. I think with Past Lives, we kind of had it established that she's a brilliant like script writer and like director in terms of how she tells her
100%.
stories and kind of the way she wants to get a certain point across, how she conveys it so subtly. I think also in terms of like choosing her casting, like loads of people have gone on about this, but I think Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal were perfect for this. Because each of them has a very specific role to play, not just in the film, but in the broader discussion of the film as well, and the broader perception of the film. You put 3 A-list, all Marvel, by the way, just to put it there, Marvel actors on a platform like this, all obviously good looking, have their own like status symbols as actors, and you kind of boil them down to a seemingly simple story, and you're kind of left with this feeling of like, yeah, I don't know if anyone else could have done this. And if someone else, like you said in the case of Dakota Johnson, someone else could have done this, or in that case, many others could have done this. Why?
Yeah.
What is it about that character that makes us think that any other tall, white, attractive white woman could have done it?
I 100% see that. I think, again, it just makes so much sense. I think obviously the marketing was playing up Pedro Pascal, because if you are going into this thinking this is going to very heavily feature Pedro Pascal, it's not. Pedro Pascal is being Pedro Pascal. He's as charming as ever. But this film is not as much about him as it is about John and Lucy, right? Dakota Johnson and Chris
I
Evans.
think even less about John. I think it's about Lucy.
Yeah, I 100% see that. And I think, again, it's just coming back to with the casting. I think everyone's roles feel so perfectly suited for them as well. Like, it's never saying like John is not attractive, only Pedro Pascal is. No, John is just in the dumps, and he probably will not get out of the dumps like Pedro Pascal is. It's saying something very specific, but it is also talking about what is right for these very specific people in these circumstances.
Exactly. And I've seen like a lot of broke boy propaganda and, you know, why she got to pick the poor one or something. And I think that's way more like punching down on poor people than people say the film is. Because, and I mean, Celine Song responded to this as well, which, by the way, I think she shouldn't have to respond to one-liners on Letterboxd. Anyway, her response is really wrong and really well thought out. But I think the point isn't that he's broke and he chose her despite the fact that he's broke. I think she chose him because she loves him. And like they keep saying in the film, it's easy. And what's wrong with going with what's easy? And aren't certain things in life supposed to be easy? If the rest of life is going to be really hard, as I'm sure it will be for John's character and Lucy, why shouldn't one aspect of their life just be, it's done? Right. So I think she did a really good job of, at the end of the day, saying, pick whoever you want to pick. It doesn't matter. Pick whoever feels right for you. And I think they do a really good job of showing, if not why John and Lucy are good for each other, why Lucy and Harry are not good for each other. And I think that is enough for me.
Fair enough. And listen, I will come back to this idea of, like, I think a lot of people's very specific reviews are coming from Past Lives. And I can't say this film is better than Past Lives. I can't. Because one thing with Past Lives is that I think the writing on Past Lives is so good, because specifically it feels that film never takes the easier option and always like justifies its harder choices. With this film, she's just coming at it from a very different place. The message of Past Lives and what it's trying to say is very different from what this is trying to say, right? And I, again, like, even with scenes like the knee surgery scene, which I, again, also saw a lot of people not taking seriously, I do get it, though, as like a relatively shorter person, right? Maybe a short king, some would say. I get it, though. That is not untrue. Like, I think I really liked it being like, yeah, men also sometimes feel like shit. And it's, everyone is in that way materialistic. Like, you feel short, you want that feeling of being valued.
I also think that I saw a criticism that it doesn't understand how, women are commodified in the market when it shows women commodifying men as well. And I'm like, yeah, but you're going down the same rabbit hole of like, well, and trigger warning, men get assaulted too. Yeah. No one is saying no to that. And I think those arguments always miss the point, which is who has real world repercussions to the things that we are talking about. And in terms of like the commodification of women and talking about the commodification of women in the dating world, I think this film doesn't shy away from the dark grittiness of it as well, as it is with the storyline, plotline with one of the characters getting assaulted, right? And which is a major part of the film. It's not like a sideline.
Yeah, exactly. It shows a very real part and a very dangerous part for women, which I do agree with. Like, yes, it does exist for men, but just not in that same way and to the same frequency, which is just true, right? And again, I think it commodifies both genders very much so. Like, you see the women also being like, no, I want him to look like this. He was balding. He was this. He was that. That comes up frequently in the film. And again, it's to reiterate that these are a very specific type of people. These are not people who are on dating apps. These are people who are rich. These are people who can afford a personalized matchmaker, So I think that is also a very realistic part to consider with the film, that it's talking about people with a sense of privilege, with entitlement.
Exactly. I think it does a really good job of dealing with the entitlement as well, the entitlement and the privilege. And I think New York City is like the best platform for it. I'm sure if they made this in London, it would look very different. But going back to what you said about like the comparison people have been making with Past Lives, I agree that it's definitely not as like impactful as Past Lives was for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think she's, like you said, trying to tell two very different stories. I think the reason why Past Lives hit so many people's like heartstrings was because it was talking, exactly like you said, about the difficult things. And who doesn't experience difficult things? Who doesn't feel jaded when picking difficult things or choosing to keep going with difficult things? Here, she's showing us that the easy option is light, that you can leave not feeling like your heart has been ripped out. And that's fine. So I think Celine Song is in a love triangle with her own love stories. Honestly, good for her. I want to see the triangle become a square.
Yeah, like, honestly, in the end, I still am excited to see whatever she does next. Like, I don't think this movie has any way like let me down.
For sure, agreed.
Also, on the end note, I think this film is a great double billing with Together, because both of these films are saying very much similar things in such very different ways. I would definitely watch The Materials first and then go to a much more body horror, creepy way with Together. But both of those films complement each other so well. So that's just a suggested double billing that I think genuinely people would really enjoy if you're up for that.
Also, another suggested double billing challengers if you want to release all that sexual frustration.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. They should have done a challenges. Why did they not do a challenger? That was the easier option.
For sure.
But yeah, those were our thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is produced solely by us with musical assets from Pixabay. If you enjoyed this, please do share it. See you again next time.
Bye bye.